Lena had always wanted a baby. She would often dream about holding her child, nurturing it, and watching it grow up into a wonderful human being. But it seemed as though fate had different plans for her. She and her husband had been trying to conceive for years, but with no luck. Lena was devastated. She felt as though her life was incomplete without a child. One day, Lena woke up feeling different. She was experiencing some of the symptoms of pregnancy, like morning sickness and fatigue. She was thrilled. Finally, her dream was coming true. Lena and her husband rushed to the hospital to confirm her pregnancy. The doctor performed an ultrasound, and they were all excited to see the little life growing inside her. However, what the doctor found instead was not a little life, but thousands of them. Lena's stomach was crawling with live spiders. The doctor was horrified and quickly summoned the hospital staff to help. As Lena screamed in terror, the spiders began to crawl out of her body, covering her in a writhing mass of black and brown. Lena's husband couldn't believe what he was seeing. His wife, whom he loved so much, was being consumed by these hideous creatures. They were everywhere, in her hair, her mouth, and her ears. It was as if they were taking over her body, replacing the child she had so desperately wanted. Lena's screams turned to sobs as she realized what was happening to her. She was giving birth to spiders, not a child. As the spiders continued to pour out of her, the doctors frantically tried to stop the infestation. But it was too late. The spiders had already taken over her body, and Lena was lost to them. For the next few days, the hospital was a hive of activity. They tried everything to remove the spiders from Lena's body, but nothing seemed to work. Her husband watched in horror as his wife became less and less recognizable. Her once beautiful face was now covered in spider bites and her skin was turning black from the venom. One night, Lena's husband was sitting by her bedside when he noticed something strange. One of the spiders that had been crawling all over her body was different from the others. It was larger, and its legs seemed to be moving in a strange, coordinated pattern. As he watched, the spider began to move towards Lena's mouth. In a panic, Lena's husband tried to swat the spider away, but it was too late. The spider crawled into Lena's mouth and disappeared down her throat. Lena's body convulsed violently, and she began to choke. The doctors rushed in, but it was too late. Lena was dead. The hospital staff couldn't believe what had happened. They had never seen anything like it before. Lena's husband was inconsolable. He had lost his wife to a horde of spiders. As he left the hospital, he couldn't shake the feeling that the spiders were still with him, crawling on his skin and burrowing into his brain. Years passed, and the memory of Lena's death began to fade. Her husband remarried, and they had 2 children. But he could never forget the horror that had consumed his first wife. Every time he saw a spider, he was reminded of the writhing mass that had consumed her. He lived the rest of his life in fear of what lay beneath the surface, wondering if the spiders were still out there, waiting to take over his life. In the end, the truth was far worse than he could have imagined. The spiders that had consumed Lena were not just ordinary arachnids. They were a new species, a breed that had evolved to prey on human beings. And they were still out there, waiting for their next victim. I hope you liked that story. If you did, please like and subscribe. I release a new story every day. If you have an idea for a story, leave it in the comments.